The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
The doctor in front of your name.
So going back to hood PTSD, can you explain to us what that is and how you came up with that?
Yeah, so, we have the trauma that we experience just as Black Americans with the current climate. And then there's intergenerational trauma we've inherited from our ancestors. But there's a very specific experience that comes from people who live in specific neighborhoods. There's specific adversity that comes from living in the hood. And a lot of times we don't recognize it as trauma.
Yeah. We normalize it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I have to ask, Tiera, so I'm wondering your experience living in Detroit, like, was that traumatic? Like, what was that like for you?
Honestly, I think I talked about this a little bit on the panel. There were things that I really just didn't know weren't normal until I moved away. And I'm like, people don't do, okay. I shouldn't respond to everything with aggression. Okay, got you. So yeah, there were things that were very traumatic, and there were things that didn't feel traumatic because they were just part of the day-to-day.
Yeah. So Tiera, you're talking about something so profound here, because we do have a tendency to normalize things when it's not adaptive, right? And that's really one of the foundations of trauma, like feeling like our norm is a norm. It's like because we made it a habit, but just because we made it a habit doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy for us. And so I'm wondering, can you give us examples? Because I'm sure there's people watching that might feel like, okay, what am I doing that could be something that's traumatic that I don't know about?
Yeah. So one of the things that comes up is living in a certain area. There's a lot of death to gun violence. And when you first experience it, you experience like any other grief. But when it's happening again and again and again, your body starts to adjust to it in a way that allows you to survive it. So, or another example would be somebody who's really explosive that might have learned to be explosive as a protective mechanism. And that might be something that they learn to not become prey. And that was a part of their identity. And that was a part of, this is how I deal with things. When really they learned it because they were in an environment that required them to learn that.
Can you give us an example of that? Of like what that can look like practically?
Yeah. So I don't know. So from me, where I'm from, like, if you can fight, that's a good thing. Like, if you can fight, that's you want to have hands, you want to be tough. That's a way to protect yourself. A lot of people will problem solve with what I learned was to problem solve with, if somebody threatens you, you just swing on them. You don't have a conversation. You're not trying to defuse the situation. If you do any of that, that's weakness. And that becomes very normalized in those environments.
Yeah. So you're saying that can be a result of like living in a traumatic environment.
Absolutely. When you think about people who live in like the hood, you're exposed to a disproportionate amount of poverty, of stress, of crime, of violence, and you're going to have to find a way to adjust to it. And a lot of times those adjustments aren't conscious.
It becomes like we said, like that habitual sense. And I'm wondering, like, it sounds like you have the clinical background and understanding of this, and also like your lived experience. Like, how was that learning about the trauma in school while also recognizing like, wow, I kind of like lived this?
Yeah. I think that for me, a lot of that learning didn't come until later. Okay. Because when we're getting formal education, we're not getting formal education about what's happening to Black folks, especially not Black folks in the hood. We're learning about these different theories and these different white folks who created these things, but they weren't doing them based off of what our communities needed. So really through my experience, I started to see like, oh, this applies to me, but not fully. Like, there has to be something more because it's not really considering the unique experiences that we have.
The doctor in front of your name.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.